In this episode, I'm going to cover embedding the GXT application in the document. I'll start off by adding the app to the element ID of the document. Then I'll pass the layout data after it's attached. And after window resize happens, I'll pass the layout data again. So to get started, I'm going to go to the IDE. And what I have here is I created a project, a bare bones project earlier on in the series. So what I want to cover is the basic artifacts that I've created here. And that is embed HTML. And this here is an HTML page with a few divs, and I have a header, a content, which is the middle. It takes 100% because it's a flex layout, and a footer 50 pixels high as well. So what I'm after is this ID, so I can insert my content, my application right inside this div element. And so what my application doesn't know is how large this div is when it starts the application. So what I want to do is copy content, the ID. It could be unique or more unique in your application or another application that I use, so it doesn't collide in my overall large application. So I'm going to go back to the project entry point and start my application. So I'm going to go root panel.get. And in this case, it gets the body by default, or the body element, and I want to get my content ID here, and then I want to add my application. And I'm going to use a simple container as the example in this. So I'm going to go simple container, sc equals new, simple container. And I can't see that because there's nothing to look at yet. So what I want to do is import that class, import, and I want to add a border so I can tell where or how large my simple container is. So I'm going to sc.add, and what I want to do is add nothing. So I'm going to go sc.get element.get style, inline style attribute for this div or the container div. And I'm going to set a property that says I want to put set property, autocomplete there. And this is going to be a border. And for the border, I'm going to go 1 px solid red. This is just simply a red border that I can see in the document. So after that, I need to pass the initial layout data. So how can I do that? What I look for is, okay, I can figure out when this widget is attached because it has a life cycle when it is attached and detached. And so I can add a handler for that, sc.add, add handler, attached handler. And I auto-completed that. So I'm going to go new, autocomplete, control space, and then I'll select attach handler. I'll terminate the handler, and then what I like to do is go Command-Shift-O for auto import. It asks me which class to import because there's a collision here. And so I'm going to choose logical shared attach event handler. And that's what I want. So I'll remove some spacing and correct the formatting here. And then if sc.is attached, and if you notice here, sc is not scoped or is not accessible in here. So I'm going to go final, and now sc can be retrieved, or this reference can be retrieved. And because I want to ask it if it's attached, because I don't want to do this action on detached, because this same handler is called on detached. So if attached, and what I want to do is copy this reference down here, root panel.get. I don't want the add because it doesn't return anything. So I'll get that, and then I'll say root widget is equal to this, and I'll show you why I do this. Command 1, autocomplete, create local variable, and this is going to be the root panel. And so what I wanted to do is get a reference to that because I want to get the size of this content container. And then I'm going to go int w is the width, and that's going to be root widget dot get offset width, and then I'm going to go int h equals root widget because I want to get the height here dot get offset height. And then what I want to do is pass it to the simple container, because when I resize, or when it's sized, because this doesn't know about the initial size of the parent. And what happens here is if I set a pixel size, it'll pass it down to the child. And so I go sc.set pixel size, and that's going to be width and height. So now when I set this pixel size, it'll provide it to the simple container. And if a simple container, since it's a resize child and the child container, it will pass that sizing down the hierarchy. Okay, so that initially gets me going. So what I want to do is show you what happens here. So let's go and debug it, save first, and then I'm going to go click debug, and I already have a launcher started, but let's start and create a new launcher per se. This one will reuse. So I'm going to go right click on the project, debug as, quit development mode with Jetty. And this will start or ask me, okay, I want to create a launcher, but I want to create it with this HTML entry point. And I'm going to select embed in this case. Because in the embed, I have the HTML example of the Flex layout. So I'm going to start it up. It'll provide me with a link after the initial compile where it copies the resources to the web app. Then I'm going to open up embed. Okay, so it finished the compile, and you can see the simple container has size to the content there. So that's pretty cool. So let's say I wanted to resize my window, so I'll grab the window and resize it. Let me reload it and show you this example. Okay, so it's initially sized, and then I'm going to make it larger. And here you can see that the red border is not resizing to the window or to the available content size here. So I'm going to provide a window resize handler to do that. So let's say after the root panel, I'm going to say window. I'm going to call the window and use a static handler here. Resize handler, new, and resize handler. And I'm going to resize this. Okay. And look at adding on resize. So what I want to do is on resize, I want to resize the simple container. So then I have to do the same thing as above here. I need to get the size of the content panel so I can get that. And then I need to pass it to this, to the thing. So I could get that too and paste it here. Okay. So on resize root panel, set pixel size. Now, if you have a large application, something to consider here, the window resize basically sends a lot of events. So you may not want to set the pixel size on every resize, but let me show you the effect here of actually correcting this. So this works great for this simple application, but not a large application. And I'll explain a little bit more why here in a moment. So I'm going to go back, reload, and the incremental compile went off, and you can see, okay, so what I want to do is resize it. Okay, it now resizes. Let's reload smaller like I did earlier and resize it. Okay, so the window resizing events set the pixel size after I window resize it. Okay, but what if I wanted to slow down how many resizing events are sent to the children? Because maybe I have a grid with hundreds and hundreds and thousands of rows and cells. Let's say I'm just making something up, and I don't want to resize that every time a window event comes down. So what I could do is wrap this with a timer, and I'll show you. I could schedule it so it only happens after a 50 millisecond gap in the window resizing. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's say 500 milliseconds, probably a little bit more, or 1 second, so we can see it with our eyes. Okay, let's wrap it. So that'll be a timer. T equals new timer. And I make my variables small when the scope is easy to see within my method here. So I'll complete, and then I'll import the timer. And that's command 1 on Eclipse. And I'm looking for ComGwit user client. And then it needs a method body. And you can autocomplete some of this. So I'm going to go command 1 for autocomplete, add unimplemented methods. And I like to remove the inner anonymous class spaces or new lines. And then I'm going to go T schedule. And I'm going to schedule 500 milliseconds out. So what I need to here is I'm going to create multiple timers. So that's not what I want to do. So what I want to do is actually make this a reference. So if null, create the timer. If not, use the same timer and reschedule it. So then I'm going to say timer or delay task, delay sizing. and I'm going to make this a field. So I'm going to go Command 1 and create field. But not of this class, anonymous class. So I'm going to cut that and paste it at the top of my class up here. So now it's a reference. Now I have to add a MPE conditional here that says if null, delay sizing is null. We want to instantiate it. Delay sizing is null. Then we wrap that. And okay, so that now will only get instantiated on the first time it's called. Otherwise, it's rescheduled. So then let's say, and let's say I need to paste. Okay, so I got to paste this other text in because I'm going to call it. I could make it extract this because I have two pieces of logic here now. I could probably make this a method. But in this case, I'm not going to do that for this episode because I just want to show you iteratively how to walk through this process. Okay, so I said 500 milliseconds. Well, let's say 1,000 milliseconds, which would be 1 second. And I'm going to save it, and we can go back to our application and reload. And since we have a smaller window, we could resize it. Okay, you can see there. Okay, did you see that? After 1 second, let's go a little smaller. Wait for the resize. Okay, there it is. 1 second, there it goes. You can see the slight delay. So that means I can do a bunch of resizing until I come to where I want, and then it's delayed. But you probably don't want 500 milliseconds in between the start and stop a delay. So maybe you want 500 milliseconds to shorten it up, or 250 or 200 or 100, whatever works best for tuning to your application. So you're aiming to get the resizing into the next frame after everything's completed, or after the window is resized. You just want it at the end of the window resize. And maybe you want it in between as well, so you can adjust that timeline there. But I wanted to give that as a demonstration because I've come across layouts that are heavy because they're enterprisey and have lots of data. And lots of data sometimes brings a little bit of a latency when drawing that all to the DOM. So this gives you an option to work with that or work around it. So that concludes this video today on how to embed your application into an element in your DOM, which I think is enterprisey. And thanks for watching today. Follow me for more tips and tricks on GXT, and I'll catch you later.